Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight, security beefed up at the Simpson Penn Center for Boys. Just how concerned is Frederick McAlpine about a future F&M nomination? A UB professor talks reparation payments, plus what's happening over on San Salvador with Morton Salt.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News, the weekend edition, and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Following several escapes from the Simpson Penn Center for Boys over the last few months, Social Services Minister Frankie Campbell says security at the facility has been beefed up. Jasmine Brown has the details.
While escapes from the Simpson Penn School for Boys is nothing new, the frequency of escapes in recent months has been a cause for concern.
We're satisfied that two things has to be done. The facility itself, there must be a focus on security of the facility, and there must be a focus on the human resources that provide the security. And we're working on both aspects.
Over the summer, 13 inmates escaped the Fox Hill facility. In October, another 4 teens escaped. According to Campbell, the latest escape occurred after a Simpson Penn employee took a bathroom break as they were supervising a group of boys who were watching TV under the center's pavilion. At the time, Campbell said once the employee returned, he realized one of the boys was missing. Further checks revealed that 4 boys were missing.
We took significant steps to secure the area that was used to effect the escape. That particular route was used more than once, I'm advised, and so we're satisfied now that that route could not be used again.
The center has had a history of escapes. In 2011, 5 boys escaped. At the time, then acting Superintendent Whitfield Neely said the boys simply walked out of the center. In 2012, 7 boys ran away from the facility.
We are looking to visit one of our neighboring juvenile facilities to look for some best practice.
There are currently 32 boys at the facility. The boys are at the center by order of the court. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
All right, thanks, Jasmine. While outspoken Pine Ridge Member of Parliament Frederick McAlpine is responding to speculation that his criticism of the Minnis administration will cost him a nomination for the next general election. McAlpine, who ran on the F&M ticket during the 2017 general election, says the last thing he's worried about is a nomination.
The nomination isn't important to me right now. What's important to me at this stage of the game is the Bahamian people and good governance, seeing the advancements of the people.
F&M Chairman Kyle Culmer has said the outspoken MP needs to decide whether he is with the party or not. Culmer's chastising came after McAlpine participated in an anti-government march in protest outside Parliament more than a week ago. Protesters expressed outrage over several issues, including increasing electricity bills and the Oban Energies deal, as they called for the Prime Minister's resignation. McAlpine says he has tried to reach out to the party's execs, but has only been greeted with silence.
Oh, I have reached out on numerous occasions, but some things is just called politics 101. I have reached out. We have a communication problem within and without. You're not speaking to the Bahamian people. Nobody have a problem with you with VAT, but you raising VAT, Maybe the problem is it's too high, but tell us why. The government is doing many things without giving it a proper explanation.
In news from the Crime Beat, police are searching for the men behind a carjacking and a beauty store holdup that occurred Thursday night. Reports are that the men entered a beauty salon on Balfour Avenue around 8 that night and held employees and customers at bay. The men reportedly robbed a woman of her handbag and fled the scene. And in the second incident around 11 that night, a man was sitting in his vehicle on West Bay Street opposite the entrance to Arawak Key when he was approached by an armed man who robbed him of cash and his red 2016 Honda Civic. Investigations into both matters are ongoing. Well, does the Bahamas have a claim for reparations against Harvard University? Well, it may not be as simple as that, but Jared Hicks tells us there is some progress in reparations movement here in the Caribbean.
As reports swirl that the University of Glasgow would pay £200 million to the University of the West Indies, supporters of the reparations movement were in a celebratory mood. However, it was later revealed that the UK-based university had only acknowledged that they received £200 million in payments from Jamaican slave owners. That university's vice chancellor went on to say that his school is committed to excellence and ethics, and both universities are reportedly negotiating a memorandum of understanding. Despite that, University of the Bahamas Associate Professor of History, Dr. Christopher Curry, says it's a good sign for supporters of reparations.
What is important is the principle of reparatory justice is being acknowledged by the University of Glasgow, and they are working towards an MOU which will eventually lead to some funding, some cash, but also some in-kind development. And that's really important to underscore that, and this is true for reparations in general, we're not asking for a blank check. Sir Hilary is not asking for just, a bunch of money to be given to UWI. What they're really interested in is finding ways of developing institutional structures at the University of the West Indies that will create centers of learning and centers of excellence that will advance education at the tertiary level.
Reparations for slavery are described as an idea that certain countries and institutions ought to compensate the descendants of Africans who were victims of the transatlantic slave trade. Curry says it's all about righting a historical wrong.
Reparations is trying to right a wrong. And we know that when the Caribbean countries came into independence, they came in a stage of underdevelopment, and particularly true in education. And so advancing educational endeavors is a really big plank in the whole reparations movement. And that's, I think, where Glasgow and UWI are trying to facilitate creating an equal playing field moving forward.
What about the Bahamas? Curry says the Lutheran adventurers who introduced slavery to the Bahamas have an interesting connection with Harvard University, having provided special lumber used to build the now Ivy League school.
Let me say this. The Lutheran adventurers, it is acknowledged, were the first to establish slavery in the Bahamas. That's if you look at Gail Saunders' early book, Slavery in the Bahamas, 1648 to 1838. That date establishes that we had enslavement occurring with the arrival of the Lutheran adventurers. So if that is the case, then we may look at a relationship with Harvard.
Curry says the connection doesn't stop there. Bahamian historians have done the research, and they think they know how much slave owners were compensated in the Bahamas when slavery was abolished.
I would suggest, another way of looking at it is to look at, and I know my colleague, Dr. Olivia Saunders, she just presented at our Research Edge forum a couple Fridays ago. She's looked at the actual amount of funds that were given to slave owners in 1834 as compensation for the loss of their labor. All right, and she's calculated the value of that in 2018, and I don't know the exact figure that she came to, but what we want to look at is where did some of the monies that they got in 1834 go? Can we establish that there were universities, there were places where our slave owners, circa 1834 or just before that, were giving grants or giving funds to? So that might be another area of interest. But wherever we can claim reparatory justice and we can claim funds, I think we should pursue it.
Curry has been critical of the Bahamas' approach to reparations. Back in October, a reparations conference in Jamaica did not feature a Bahamian representative. Reporting for Our News Weekend, I'm Jared Higgs.
All right, thanks, Jared. Still to come, the Christian Council president urging Bahamians to look on the bright side. Plus, we take a closer look at the concessions being offered to businesses over the hill. Stay tuned.